A storm brings change. The rain hammered against the windows of Sweet Magnolia Bakery like thousands of tiny drumbeats. Grace Mitchell stood behind the worn counter, staring at the stack of unpaid bills that seemed to grow taller each week. Her grandmother's beloved bakery, a Charleston landmark for 60 years, was drowning in debt. The sugar-sweet smell of fresh bread and pastries filled the air, but it could not sweeten the bitter reality Grace faced. She touched the faded photograph on the wall showing her grandmother in a white apron, smiling proudly on opening day back in 1965. That same apron now hung on Grace's shoulders, stained with flour and the weight of impossible expectations. "Grandma, I am trying my best," she whispered to the photograph. "But I don't know how much longer I can keep your dream alive." The antique clock on the wall showed 10:30 at night. Grace had sent her last employee home an hour ago. Now she was alone, counting the day's earnings that barely covered the cost of ingredients. In 2 weeks, she owed $180,000 to pay off the loans her father had taken before he passed away. Without that money, Sweet Magnolia Bakery would close forever. An unexpected visitor. The bell above the door chimed, startling Grace from her dark thoughts. A tall man in an expensive suit stumbled inside, completely soaked from the storm. Water dripped from his dark hair onto the checkered floor. His gray eyes quickly scanned the cozy bakery, taking in the vintage decorations, handwritten recipe cards framed on walls, and display cases filled with beautiful pastries. "I apologize for coming so late," the man said in a smooth, educated voice. "The storm caught me by surprise, and I saw your lights on. May I wait here until the rain stops?" Grace hesitated. The man looked wealthy, everything about him screamed money and privilege. His watch alone probably cost more than her monthly rent. But there was something genuine in his expression, a kindness that made her feel safe. "Of course," Grace replied, wiping her hands on her apron. "But I have already closed the kitchen. I cannot offer you any fresh food." "That is perfectly fine," the man smiled, extending his hand. "I am Nathan Pierce. Thank you for your hospitality." "Grace Mitchell," she responded, shaking his hand. His grip was firm but gentle. "Make yourself comfortable. This storm looks like it will last a while." Discovering magic in baking. Nathan settled into a chair near the window, watching the rain create rivers in the street outside. Grace returned to organizing her workspace, but she felt his eyes following her movements. There was something different about the way he observed everything, not like a customer, but like someone trying to understand a mystery. "This place has an incredible atmosphere," Nathan commented after a few minutes. "How long has it been here?" 60 years, Grace answered with pride warming her voice. "My grandmother started it when she moved to Charleston from Georgia. She taught me everything I know about baking." "Is she still involved in the business?" "She passed away 3 years ago," Grace said softly. "She left the bakery to me. Now I am fighting to keep it alive." Nathan heard the pain hidden beneath her words. He stood and walked to the counter, studying the photographs that decorated the walls. Each picture told a story of community, celebration, and tradition. This was not just a business. It was a legacy. "Those pastries in the case," Nathan pointed to the display. "Are they fresh?" "From this morning," Grace confirmed. "Why do you ask?" "May I buy one? I suddenly feel very hungry." Grace smiled for the first time that evening. "The kitchen is closed, but I suppose I can make an exception for someone escaping the storm." She prepared a plate with her grandmother's famous pecan pie, a slice of lemon pound cake, and a cream cheese Danish. Nathan's face transformed with the first bite of pie. His eyes closed as he savored the perfect blend of sweet and nutty flavors, the flaky crust that melted on his tongue. "This is extraordinary," he said with genuine amazement. "I have eaten at 5-star restaurants around the world, but I have never tasted anything like this." "That is Grandma's secret recipe," Grace explained, feeling warmth spread through her chest at his appreciation. "She always said the secret ingredient was love, but really it was 3 different types of pecans and a touch of bourbon. They talked for 2 hours while the storm raged outside. Nathan shared stories about his travels, his business building hotels across the Southeast. Grace told him about learning to bake as a child, standing on a stool beside her grandmother, measuring ingredients with tiny hands. The conversation flowed naturally, like they had known each other for years instead of hours. Danger arrives. Their peaceful evening shattered when the door burst open. 2 men in cheap suits entered without invitation. Grace's body went rigid. She recognized them immediately. Leonard Hayes and his partner, the loan collectors who had been pressuring her for weeks. "Miss Mitchell," Leonard said with a voice like gravel. "We need to talk about your payment." "I still have 2 weeks," Grace replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We agreed on that timeline." "Plans have changed," Leonard moved closer to the counter. "Our boss wants his money now. Today. Or we start taking your equipment as payment." His partner began examining the industrial ovens, the vintage mixer that had belonged to Grace's grandmother. He touched them with rough hands, like he was already calculating their resale value. "You cannot do this," Grace protested. "We have a legal agreement." "Agreements can be modified," Leonard smiled without warmth. "Especially when the debtor cannot pay." Nathan stood up from his table. Something in his posture changed, becoming more commanding, more dangerous. "Excuse me, gentlemen. I think you should leave." Leonard turned to face him with contempt. "This is private business. Leave now, or you will regret interfering." "I am not interfering," Nathan said calmly. "I am protecting my partner's interests." The kiss that changed everything. Grace stared at Nathan in confusion. Partner? What was he talking about? But before she could ask, Nathan walked behind the counter and stood beside her. He placed his hand gently on her back. "This bakery belongs to both of us now," Nathan announced. "I just became Miss Mitchell's business partner. Any debts will be paid according to the original schedule. If you have a problem with that, you can speak to my lawyers." He pulled out a business card and handed it to Leonard. The loan collector's expression changed when he read the name. Vega Hotels and Resorts. Nathan Pierce, Chief Executive Officer. This was not just some random customer. This was one of the most successful businessmen in the Southeast. At that exact moment, the door opened again. 2 young women with cameras entered, shaking rain from their umbrellas. Grace recognized them as social media influencers who frequently posted about Charleston restaurants and shops. "Oh my gosh," one of them squealed. "Is that Nathan Pierce? Can we get a picture?" Everything happened so fast that Grace could barely process it. Leonard and his partner looked angry but uncertain. The influencers were already taking out their phones. Nathan turned to Grace, and she saw something in his eyes, an apology, a question, a promise. Then he kissed her. It was not a small kiss. It was deep and passionate, the kind of kiss that made the whole world disappear. Grace's mind went blank with shock, but her body responded instinctively. Her hands found his arms, holding on as the kiss deepened. She could taste mint and coffee on his lips, feel the strength in his embrace. The influencers screamed with excitement, their phones capturing every moment. Flashes lit up the bakery like lightning. Leonard and his partner backed toward the door, realizing they could not intimidate someone with cameras documenting everything. When Nathan finally pulled away, Grace could barely breathe. Her heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The influencers were already posting photos and videos, typing excited captions about a surprise romance at Charleston's historic bakery. "What just happened?" Grace whispered, still dizzy from the kiss. "I protected you," Nathan whispered back. "And I think we just became very famous." Within minutes, the photos went viral. Sweet Magnolia Bakery was trending on every social media platform. Comments flooded in from thousands of people captivated by the romantic story of a wealthy developer falling for a struggling baker. The kiss had been captured from multiple angles, showing genuine passion that no one could fake. Leonard Hayes and his partner left quickly, but not before Leonard turned at the door. "This is not over, Miss Mitchell. We will be watching." When they were finally alone again, Grace and Nathan stood in the quiet bakery, both trying to understand what had just happened. The kiss still tingled on Grace's lips. Her entire world had turned upside down in less than 5 minutes. "I am so sorry," Nathan began. "I should have asked permission before I did that. But those men were threatening you, and the cameras gave me an idea to make the protection more believable." "You kissed me to protect my bakery?" Grace asked, unsure whether to feel grateful or insulted. "I kissed you because in that moment, it felt like the right thing to do," Nathan admitted. "Was I wrong?" Grace looked at this stranger who had walked into her bakery seeking shelter from a storm and somehow became her unlikely protector. She should be angry. She should demand he leave immediately. Instead, she found herself smiling. "I don't know yet," she answered honestly. "But I think we are about to find out." Neither of them realized that their impulsive kiss had triggered something far more complicated than viral fame. An old Charleston law, forgotten by almost everyone, was about to turn their pretend partnership into something shockingly real, morning after fame. Grace woke up to her phone buzzing like an angry hornet. Sunlight streamed through her bedroom window above the bakery, and for a confused moment, she thought yesterday had been a strange dream. Then she grabbed her phone and saw 847 notifications. Her heart sank as reality came crashing back. The kiss. The viral photos. Nathan Pierce. She scrolled through social media with growing disbelief. Photos of their kiss had been shared over 50,000 times. News websites were running headlines like, "Hotel Mogul Finds Love in Small Bakery," and, "Charleston's Most Romantic Business Partnership." Someone had even created a hashtag that was trending nationally. Her phone rang. Ruby Thompson, her best friend since college, did not wait for a greeting. "Grace Elizabeth Mitchell, you have exactly 10 minutes to explain why you are kissing a millionaire on the internet." Ruby's voice was sharp but concerned. "I am coming to the bakery right now. Put coffee on." Grace dragged herself downstairs, her mind still foggy. She started the coffee maker and was pulling ingredients for morning pastries when someone knocked on the back door. Through the window, she saw Nathan holding 2 paper bags and looking surprisingly fresh for someone who had orchestrated a viral sensation the night before. "Peace offering," he said when she opened the door, holding up the bags. "Bagels from that place on King Street, and I brought legal documents we need to discuss." "Legal documents?" Grace's stomach twisted. "What kind of legal documents?" Before Nathan could answer, Ruby burst through the front door like a hurricane. Her curly hair was wild, and her expression was fierce. She looked Nathan up and down with the suspicious eye of someone who trusted no one, especially not rich men who appeared out of nowhere. "You must be the kisser," Ruby said without introduction. "I am Ruby Thompson, Grace's best friend, business advisor, and personal bodyguard." "Start talking." The summons. Nathan remained calm under Ruby's intense scrutiny. "Nathan Pierce. I understand your concern for Grace. What happened last night was complicated, but I assure you my intentions are honorable." "Honorable men don't kiss women they just met in front of cameras," Ruby crossed her arms. "What game are you playing?" "Ruby, please," Grace intervened. He was trying to help. "Those loan collectors were threatening to take Grandma's equipment immediately." "By kissing you?" "That is his solution." Ruby looked incredulous. Nathan set the bags on the counter. "May I explain? But first, Grace, you need to see this." He pulled an official-looking envelope from one of the bags. The return address made Grace's blood run cold. Charleston County Civil Court. With shaking hands, she opened it. The letter inside was brief but devastating. Dear Miss Grace Mitchell and Mr. Nathan Pierce, you are hereby summoned to appear before Judge Patricia Holmes at Charleston County Civil Court on November 20th at 9 a.m. regarding your civil union status. Failure to appear will result in automatic validation of your marriage certificate. Your attendance is mandatory. Grace read it 3 times before the words made sense. Marriage certificate. Civil union. Her vision blurred at the edges. I don't understand, she whispered. We are not married. We just kissed. That is what I came to explain, Nathan said gently. I received the same letter this morning. I called my lawyer immediately. Apparently, there is an old Charleston law from 1834 that was never officially removed from the books. Ruby snatched the letter from Grace's hands and read it quickly. What law? I have lived here my whole life. There is no law that marries people for kissing. The Public Declaration of Matrimonial Intent Act, Nathan explained. It was created when Charleston was a major port city. Sailors would meet women, fall in love quickly, and needed a way to marry before shipping out. The law states that if 2 unmarried adults publicly kiss in a community establishment with witnesses present, and if that kiss is documented with proof, it constitutes a legal declaration of marriage intent. That is insane, Grace said faintly. Laws like that cannot still exist. Most people think they do not, Nathan agreed. But my lawyer confirmed it. The law was never formally repealed. And because your bakery is registered as a historic community gathering place, and because multiple witnesses documented our kiss with photos and videos that were posted publicly, we technically triggered the law's conditions. The investigation. Ruby was already on her phone, typing furiously. I am looking this up right now. If this is some elaborate scam to take advantage of Grace, I will personally destroy you. Please do investigate, Nathan encouraged. I want you to verify everything I am saying. I am just as shocked as Grace is. They sat in tense silence while Ruby searched. Her expression gradually shifted from skepticism to horror to reluctant acceptance. Oh my God, Ruby breathed. He is telling the truth. Look at this. She showed them her phone screen displaying a legal database. The Public Declaration of Matrimonial Intent Act of 1834 was indeed still in the Charleston City Code, buried under obsolete regulations. Several comments from legal scholars noted it should be removed but technically remained enforceable. There have been 3 cases in the past 100 years where this law was accidentally triggered, Ruby read aloud. The most recent was in 1987. All 3 couples had to go through formal annulment proceedings. Grace felt the room spinning. So we are actually married? Just like that? Not yet, Nathan clarified. The kiss triggered the intent. But the marriage is not finalized until we appear in court. If we both show up and request annulment, Judge Holmes should grant it. But if either of us does not appear, or if we cannot prove the kiss was unintentional, the marriage becomes automatically valid. How long does annulment take? Grace asked. According to my lawyer, 45 days minimum. It is a mandatory waiting period to ensure both parties are certain about ending the union. 45 days. Grace's mind reeled. In 45 days, Leonard Hayes would have already seized her bakery. The viral attention from the kiss had brought a flood of new customers that morning. She could see them gathering outside, waiting for opening time. But good publicity would not pay off $180,000 in debt. Ruby was watching Grace carefully. What are you thinking? I can see your brain working overtime. I am thinking, Grace said slowly, that maybe this situation is not entirely bad. Grace, no, Ruby warned. Do not make desperate decisions. Hear me out, Grace turned to Nathan. You said last night that you became my business partner. Was that just for show, or did you mean it? The proposal. Nathan met her gaze steadily. I meant it. Your bakery is special, Grace. The quality, the history, the community connection, it has enormous potential. With proper investment and marketing, Sweet Magnolia could become a Charleston landmark that tourists plan their trips around. And what do you get out of helping me? Grace asked directly. Honestly, I am tired of building hotels that have no soul, Nathan admitted. I started my company because I wanted to create places where people made memories. But somewhere along the way, it became just about profit margins and expansion. Working with you, preserving something authentic, that would remind me why I started. Ruby interrupted. That is very touching, but let's talk reality. Grace, if you go through with this fake marriage, even temporarily, you are tangling your life with a complete stranger. What if he is not who he seems? That is why I want you to investigate him thoroughly, Grace said. You are the best researcher I know. Check his background, his business practices, everything. If you find anything suspicious, I will walk away. And if I do not find anything? Ruby challenged. Then maybe this crazy situation is actually an opportunity, Grace said. Nathan, if we are going to be legally married for 45 days anyway, can we make a real agreement? You help me save the bakery, I help you reconnect with authentic business practices. A temporary partnership. Nathan considered this carefully. I would want to do it properly. Pay off your debts immediately, invest in equipment upgrades, hire the marketing team. But I would not take ownership. This would remain your bakery. I would just be a temporary investor and consultant. Why would you do all that for someone you just met? Ruby demanded. Because last night, eating Grace's pecan pie and hearing her talk about her grandmother's legacy, I felt something I have not felt in years, Nathan said simply. Purpose. And because that kiss, he paused, looking at Grace with an intensity that made her heart flutter, that kiss was not entirely for show. The admission hung in the air between them. Grace felt heat rise to her cheeks, remembering how she had responded to the kiss, how natural it had felt despite the chaos around them. Okay, new plan, Ruby announced. Grace, you say nothing more until I complete my investigation. Nathan, you give me access to verify everything about you. We meet back here tomorrow morning, and I present my findings. Then Grace makes a decision with full information. Deal. Deal, Nathan agreed immediately. Fine, Grace said, though part of her had already made up her mind. Ruby's discovery. The next morning, Ruby arrived at the bakery with a thick folder and an expression Grace could not read. Nathan was already there, having spent the previous day providing Ruby with unlimited access to his financial records, business history, and personal background. I have been up all night, Ruby announced, dropping the folder on the counter. I wanted to find something wrong with him. I really did. And? Grace prompted nervously. Nathan Pierce is exactly who he claims to be, Ruby admitted reluctantly. Self-made businessman who built his hotel company from a single property he inherited from his grandfather. No scandals, no hidden debts, no angry ex-wives. His employees love him, I called 3 of them pretending to be a journalist. His business practices are ethical. He even donates 10% of his profits to historic preservation charities. But? Grace sensed there was more. But he is also known for being emotionally distant, Ruby continued. Every article about him mentions how he never stays in one place long, never forms deep connections. His longest relationship lasted 6 months. Multiple sources describe him as married to his work. Nathan did not look offended. That is all accurate. I have spent the past decade building something instead of building relationships. It is one reason why this situation appeals to me. 45 days of forced connection might teach me something. Ruby turned to Grace. Here is my professional opinion. Financially, this could save your bakery. Legally, you will be protected from the loan collectors. But emotionally, you are taking a huge risk. You fall hard for people, Grace. Always have. What happens when 45 days are up and Nathan goes back to his disconnected lifestyle? Then I will have a saved bakery and a good memory, Grace said, sounding more confident than she felt. Ruby, I am going to lose everything if I do not try something different. At least this way, Grandma's legacy survives. I still think you are both crazy, Ruby sighed. But if you are doing this, we do it smart. I want a legal contract protecting Grace's interests. Everything in writing. Already drafted, Nathan pulled out another envelope. My lawyer prepared a temporary partnership agreement. Grace retains full ownership of the bakery. I provide financial backing and business consultation for 45 days. At the end, we can either extend the partnership, end it completely, or, he hesitated. Or, Grace prompted. Or decide if we want to make the marriage permanent, Nathan finished quietly. Court appearance. 2 days later, Grace and Nathan stood before Judge Patricia Holmes in a small courtroom that smelled of old wood and law books. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s with sharp eyes that seemed to see through every pretense. Mr. Pierce, Miss Mitchell, Judge Holmes said, reviewing the documents before her. I must say, in 30 years on this bench, I have never had to enforce the Public Declaration of Matrimonial Intent Act. Yet here we are. Your Honor, we request annulment, Nathan said formally. The kiss was impulsive, not a genuine declaration of marriage intent. Judge Holmes looked at them over her reading glasses. I have reviewed the video evidence. That did not look like an impulsive kiss to me. It looked quite passionate, actually. Grace felt her face burn red. Your Honor, we barely knew each other. Love at first sight is a recognized phenomenon, the judge replied dryly. However, I am inclined to grant your annulment request, pending the mandatory 45-day waiting period. During this time, you will be legally married with all rights and responsibilities that entails. She stamped several documents with official seals. You may not enter into romantic relationships with others during this period. You must file joint tax documents if any income is earned. And you must appear together before me in exactly 45 days to finalize the annulment. We understand, Your Honor, Nathan said. Do you? Judge Holmes leaned forward. Because I am required to inform you that approximately 30% of couples who trigger this law end up staying married. There is something about forced proximity that reveals true compatibility. Do not be surprised if 45 days changes your mind about annulment. As they left the courthouse with their temporary marriage certificate, Grace thought about the judge's warning. 45 days to save her bakery, to get to know Nathan Pierce, to figure out if their chemistry was real or just circumstance. So, wife, Nathan said with a small smile as they walked to his car. Should we go home and figure out our living situation? I suppose we should, husband, Grace replied, testing out the word. It felt strange and right at the same time. Neither of them noticed Leonard Hayes watching from across the street, his expression dark with calculation. The loan collector pulled out his phone and made a call. Boss, we have a problem. The Mitchell woman just got married to Nathan Pierce in civil court. We need a new strategy. The voice on the other end was cold. Then we find leverage that even a rich husband cannot protect her from. Keep watching. Everyone has secrets. Learning to live together. Moving into Nathan's house felt surreal to Grace. The elegant townhouse near the historic district was 3 times larger than her tiny apartment above the bakery. High ceilings, modern kitchen, and a small garden courtyard that reminded her of Charleston's hidden beauty. Your bedroom is upstairs on the left, Nathan explained, carrying her suitcase. Mine is on the right. Separate bathrooms, complete privacy. I want you to feel comfortable here. This feels like playing house, Grace admitted, following him up the curved staircase. Except with legal documents and a time limit. Nathan set her suitcase down in a beautiful room decorated in soft blues and whites. I have been thinking about that. Instead of treating this like an obligation, what if we treat it like an opportunity? 45 days to really get to know each other without expectations. And if we end up disliking each other? Grace asked. Then we part as friends who helped each other through difficult times, Nathan said. But I don't think that will happen. Do you? Grace thought about their conversations over the past few days, how easy it was to talk to him, how he listened when she spoke about her grandmother's recipes like they were sacred texts. No, I don't think that will happen either. The first week was awkward but revealing. Grace kept her normal schedule at the bakery, arriving at 4 a.m. to start baking. Nathan adjusted his routine to help her, something that shocked his assistant who was used to him working 18-hour days focused only on hotel business. You are kneading dough at 5 in the morning, his assistant asked over the phone one day. Nathan, are you feeling okay? I am feeling better than I have in years, Nathan replied honestly, his hands covered in flour as Grace taught him to make croissants. Cancel my morning meetings. I am learning something important. Ruby visited the bakery daily, watching the developing relationship with a mixture of concern and cautious optimism. She noticed small things, how Nathan remembered Grace's coffee order perfectly after hearing it once, how Grace unconsciously touched his arm when making a point, how they moved around the kitchen together like dancers learning a new routine. You are falling for him, Ruby observed one afternoon when Nathan left to handle a business call. I know, Grace admitted. Is that terrible? Given the circumstances? It is risky, Ruby said carefully. But I see how he looks at you, Grace. Like you are the most fascinating person in the world. Just protect your heart, okay? Building something together. The bakery transformed over the next 3 weeks. Nathan brought in a designer who understood historic preservation, upgrading equipment while maintaining the vintage atmosphere. He hired a social media manager who turned their viral kiss into an ongoing love story that people followed obsessively. But it was their personal collaboration that made the real difference. Grace taught Nathan about traditional baking, the patience required to let dough rise properly, the precision needed for perfect pastries. Nathan taught Grace about business strategy, how to price products appropriately, how to expand without losing authenticity. Your grandmother's recipes are gold, Nathan said one evening, reviewing spreadsheets in the bakery after closing. But you have been underpricing everything. People would pay double for this quality. It feels wrong to charge too much, Grace protested. Grandma believed good food should be accessible. And it will be, Nathan assured her. But there is a difference between accessible and unsustainable. We can create a pricing structure that honors your grandmother's values while ensuring the business survives. They developed a system where certain items remained affordable for local customers, while specialty items for tourists and special orders were priced to reflect their true value. The strategy worked. Within 3 weeks, Sweet Magnolia Bakery was not just surviving but thriving. Leonard Hayes tried once more to intimidate Grace, showing up at the bakery with new demands. But this time, Nathan was there with his lawyer, and Leonard found himself facing potential harassment charges. The loan collector retreated, but his parting words were ominous. You think you are safe now, but this protection is temporary. 45 days will end, and then what? Your knight in shining armor goes back to his real life, and you are alone again. His words haunted Grace that night as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Was she fooling herself? Was this real or just a beautiful temporary fantasy? The turning point. 28 days into their marriage, Nathan received a call from his business partner in Atlanta. A major hotel deal required his immediate presence for at least a week, maybe 2. I have to go, he told Grace regretfully. But I will be back before the 45 days are up. Before we have to see the judge. Of course, Grace said, trying to hide her disappointment. Your business is important. Nathan studied her face. You think I am running away? No, Grace struggled to find words. Leonard was right, wasn't he? This has been a beautiful break from reality, but eventually, reality returns. Grace, look at me, Nathan took her hands. This is not a break from reality. This has become my reality. The bakery, teaching me to bake, sitting in the garden at night talking about our lives, this is the most real I have felt in a decade. But you still have to leave, Grace said softly. Business obligations, yes. But that does not change what is happening between us, Nathan replied. Or do you not feel it? Grace did feel it. The connection growing stronger each day, the way her heart lifted when he walked into a room, the rightness of working beside him. But admitting it felt dangerous when their relationship had an expiration date built into it. I feel it, she whispered. I am just scared. So am I, Nathan admitted. I have spent years avoiding exactly this kind of connection. But Grace, I am tired of running from what scares me. He kissed her then, not for cameras or protection, but because they both needed it. This kiss was different from the first one, slower, deeper, full of promises neither had dared speak aloud yet. The business trip revelation. Nathan left for Atlanta the next morning. The bakery felt empty without him, even though Grace had run it alone for years before he appeared. Ruby noticed immediately. You are miserable, Ruby observed, watching Grace mechanically decorate cupcakes. I am fine, Grace lied. You are in love with him, Ruby corrected. And you are terrified he won't come back. He will come back, Grace said. The annulment hearing is in 17 days. He has to come back. That is not what I mean, Ruby said gently. Grace, he will come back for the legal obligation. The question is whether he will stay for you. In Atlanta, Nathan was having his own revelation. The hotel deal that seemed so important 2 months ago now felt hollow. He sat in a conference room full of executives discussing profit margins and market expansion, and all he could think about was Grace laughing while teaching him to pipe frosting, Grace's face lighting up when a customer praised her pastries, Grace's quiet strength as she carried her grandmother's legacy forward. His business partner, James, noticed his distraction. You have been checking your phone every 5 minutes. What is going on? I got married, Nathan said abruptly. James nearly choked on his coffee. You what? When? To who? Nathan found himself telling the whole story, the storm, the kiss, the ancient law, the 45 days. As he talked, he realized something crucial. He kept saying, we, instead of I. We decided to upgrade the ovens. We created a new pricing strategy. We are building something together. So this marriage, it is not real? James asked when he finished. It started as an accident, Nathan admitted. But James, it has become the realest thing in my life. I love her. I am in love with Grace, and I have no idea if she feels the same way or if she just sees this as a business arrangement that saved her bakery. Only one way to find out, James said. Go home. The hotel deal can wait. Love cannot. The grand gesture. Nathan returned to Charleston 3 days later without warning. He went straight to the bakery at 5 a.m., knowing Grace would be starting her morning prep. When he walked through the back door, she was pulling a tray of cinnamon rolls from the oven, her hair tied back, flour dusting her cheek. She looked up and dropped the oven mitt she was holding. Nathan? You are back early. Is something wrong? No, he said, walking toward her. Everything is finally right. He cupped her face in his hands, looking at her with such intensity that her breath caught. Grace, I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond. She nodded, her heart pounding. These past 40 days with you have changed me completely, Nathan began. You have taught me what matters, tradition, community, creating something with love instead of just profit. But more than that, you have taught me what I have been missing in my life. Connection. Real partnership. Love. Grace's eyes filled with tears. I don't want an annulment, Nathan continued. I want to stay married to you. I want to wake up every morning and come to this bakery and watch you create magic. I want to argue about pricing strategies and test new recipes and build a life together. But I need to know if you want that too, or if this has just been a convenient arrangement for you. Convenient? Grace laughed through her tears. Nathan, I have been miserable for 3 days because I thought you were going to leave. I thought after 45 days, you would go back to your hotels and your business trips and I would just be a temporary interruption in your real life. You are not an interruption, Nathan said fiercely. You are the main event. Everything else is just background noise. Grace kissed him, pouring every emotion she had been holding back into it. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathless and smiling. So we are doing this? Grace asked. We are staying married. If you will have me, Nathan replied. On one condition, Grace said seriously. We write new vows. Ones we both choose, not ones created by an accidental kiss and an ancient law. The decision. 12 days later, they stood again before Judge Holmes, but this time their purpose was different. Instead of requesting annulment, they filed paperwork to confirm their marriage voluntarily. Judge Holmes looked at them with satisfaction. I had a feeling about you too. You know I am required to ask one final time, are you certain you want to remain married? This is your last opportunity to walk away cleanly. Grace and Nathan looked at each other and smiled. I am certain, Grace said. So am I, Nathan confirmed. Then by the power vested in me by the state of South Carolina, I officially recognize and confirm your marriage, Judge Holmes declared. May you both find the happiness you have clearly already discovered. Ruby was waiting outside the courthouse with a bouquet of flowers. I still think you are both crazy, she said, hugging Grace tightly. But I have never seen you happier. So I guess sometimes crazy is the right choice. Thank you for everything, Grace told her. For protecting me, for investigating him, for being honest even when I didn't want to hear it. That is what family does, Ruby replied. Back at Sweet Magnolia Bakery, they found a surprise. The staff had decorated the entire shop with flowers and banners. Regular customers filled the tables, applauding when Grace and Nathan entered. Even some of the social media influencers who had captured the original kiss were there, ready to document the happy ending to the story they had helped create. This is perfect, Grace whispered to Nathan. This is just the beginning, he replied. 6 months later. Sweet Magnolia Bakery had become one of Charleston's most famous destinations. Tour groups stopped there daily, eager to see the place where a viral kiss had turned into true love. Grace had published her grandmother's recipes in a beautiful cookbook that became a regional bestseller. Nathan had partnered with 3 other historic bakeries across the South, creating a small network of preserved traditional businesses that honored heritage while embracing sustainable growth. But the best moments were still the quiet ones. Early mornings when they worked side by side in the kitchen. Evening walks through historic Charleston. Sunday afternoons in the garden at Nathan's house, which Grace now called home. Ruby visited one Sunday with news. You will never believe what happened. Leonard Hayes got arrested for loan fraud. Turns out he was running an illegal lending operation that targeted desperate business owners. Your case helped build the evidence against him. I am glad he cannot hurt anyone else, Grace said. But honestly, I barely think about him anymore. That is because you are too busy being disgustingly happy, Ruby teased. Seriously though, I am proud of you both. You took an impossible situation and turned it into something beautiful. That night, Nathan found Grace in the bakery kitchen after hours, working on a new recipe. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. What are you making? He asked. A new wedding cake flavor, Grace replied. I thought we might need one for our real wedding. You know, the one we plan ourselves instead of having forced on us by ancient laws. I thought we already had a real wedding, Nathan said, confused.